You're looking for a tool that actually lets you fix your car, not just read a bunch of codes and hand the job back to the dealer. You want something that will sit on a shelf, get used every week, and feel like it's worth the money you spent. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The big question most of us face before hitting Add to Cart is whether the scanner will really simplify the job or just add another layer of tech that ends up gathering dust. When I first started digging into the world of DIY diagnostics, the biggest hesitation was the fear of buying a piece of equipment that promises bidirectional control and ECU coding, but ends up being a glorified code reader. I've read a lot of forum threads where people spend a few $100s, only to discover the software is clunky, the updates are slow, or the device simply won't talk to the newer models they own. The risk of that wrong purchase is not just the wasted cash, it's also the wasted time trying to figure out if the problem is the scanner or the car. The TOPDON Phoenix Plus 2 sits in the middle of that spectrum. It's positioned as a full-featured diagnostic and coding tool, not a basic OBDI reader. The first thing that stood out to me was the promise of online ECU coding paired with offline programming, plus 2 years of free updates. In practice, that means you can hook the device up at the shop, download the latest coding maps when you have Wi-Fi, and then take the unit home or to a job site and run those maps without needing an internet connection. For a small garage that wants to stay current without a subscription fee every month, that alone is a tangible value point. Let's talk about what you'll actually do with it day to day. Imagine you've just replaced a fuel pump on a mid-year sedan and the check engine light comes on with a generic P0XXX code. A basic scanner will tell you the code, but you still have to look it up, interpret it, and possibly take the car back to the shop. With the Phoenix Plus 2, you can not only read that code, but also clear it and run a bidirectional test to see if the pump sensor is communicating correctly. If the sensor needs a reset, the unit can send a command back to the ECU to perform that reset without you having to disconnect the battery or use a separate tool. That kind of two-way communication saves a few minutes per job, which adds up over a week of work. Another real-world scenario is when you're dealing with a vehicle that has a faulty HVAC control module. The standard OBD reader will give you a code, but you'll still need a dealer to reflash the module. The Phoenix Plus 2 offers offline configuration, meaning you can download the appropriate module file on a laptop, transfer it to the scanner, and flash the ECU right there in the driveway. For an enthusiast who likes to keep a classic car on the road, that capability turns what would be a $150 dealer visit into a DIY task that costs just the price of the scanner. The 42+ hot reset services is a phrase you see in the marketing, and in practical terms it translates to a menu of common resets: oil service, battery registration, throttle adaptation, and more. I've actually run a battery registration on a recent hybrid after a new battery install. The process took under 5 minutes with the Phoenix Plus 2, and the car's instrument cluster reflected the new battery status immediately. That's the kind of specific, repeatable task that makes the device feel like a genuine time saver rather than a novelty. Now, no tool is perfect, and the Phoenix Plus 2 has a few trade-offs that matter once you bring it into the real world. The first is the learning curve. The interface is menu-driven, and while it's more intuitive than a raw command line tool, you still need to spend some time navigating the auto-VIN detection, system access selections, and the coding submenus. If you're a casual driver who only wants to know when the oil change light comes on, that extra time might feel like a hassle. The second point is that the unit relies heavily on the TOPDON software ecosystem. While the free updates for 2 years are generous, you'll be tied to their app for the full feature set. If TOPDON changes its licensing model after the update window, you could end up paying extra to keep the coding functions alive. Another practical limitation is the breadth of vehicle coverage. The scanner claims full OBDI and OBDI compatibility with a multi-gateway approach, which works well for most domestic and Asian models from the early 90s onward. However, I found a handful of newer European models where the autos can miss a few modules, requiring manual selection of the gateway. That's not a deal breaker, but it does mean you have to be comfortable digging into the manual a little more for those edge cases. Who should buy this? If you're a DIY enthusiast who likes to tinker beyond the check engine light,